technically the project was feasible. So one instance we gave you, for example, is one of the things that we looked at was putting solar on top of some of the roofs at our public works building, for example. After going through that effort, we recognized that it technically wasn't feasible because of structural issues in the area. So items like that caused those projects to go out the door. So number one was an ECM technically feasible? The second item is, are there adequate savings with the ECM? So we didn't want to take on a project or a conservation measure that didn't give the city adequate amount of savings. We want to spend a lot of money, but we want to make sure that the savings that come out of there are very, very tangible, either with water, energy, or operations. So that was another criteria that we used in determining whether a project was feasible. The third and final item that we used to determine whether a project was feasible was whether it addresses a critical need for the city. So there are items in here that you'll see that sometimes they don't necessarily pay for themselves completely, but it's such a critical project for the city that we have to get it done. And that's where the whole idea of bundling the projects it comes into play, where you use savings from other projects to pay for some of the other measures. Next slide, please. So once we went through the full IGA with Angie, we walked away with 14 different energy conservation measures that were picked. And we won't necessarily go through all of these, but I'll highlight the ECM number 11, which was an irrigation controls upgrade project. So one of the items that we asked for Angie to look at is all of our parks, for example, and say, what can we do about the irrigation controls at our parks to save the most money we can on the amount of water that we're looking at? So at that time, we had talked about using weather-based irrigation controls to save and cut down the amount of water that we're using at our parks and our landscape. So after careful evaluation by the NG team, they actually came out with what turns out to be great news for the city, which is there was little to no savings that could be realized from that measure because the city was already pretty darn efficient on how it handles our irrigation controls and our watering at our parks. So that's something that you look at, you go, bummer we couldn't do the project because it would have been really, really cool to do a weather-based irrigation system. However, it's great news for our community to know that the watering that we're doing at our parks right now are already at an efficient level such that a company like NG can come through here and look at it and go, there's just not enough savings to go around. So that was good news on our part there, good news for our community. The remaining 13 measures that we looked at there are what we're going to talk about in our next slide. So what we ended up doing was, with the 13 measures that were left over, we started grouping these up into projects that were like one another. So they had some kind of commonality to them, either based on the simple payback that's involved, based on whether there was CIP funds available, or based on whether the project gave us some resiliency in the end. So when we go to the next slide, we'll talk through the 4 bundles that we have. Next slide. So with the 13 measures that we advanced forward, we grouped them into 4 different categories. Our first bundle, bundle A, is projects that have existing CIP funds. So there are certain projects that we looked at doing. One example I'll just throw out really quickly is our water meter replacement project. So the city had already gone through in our CIP and identified this as a project that we wanted to do. And we actually had staff working on some level of planning and design of this effort. So what we looked at doing here with this bundle A projects was to say, these are programs that we were already doing. We have an opportunity through through NG to leverage their resources to get some of these projects done a lot quicker than it would take for us to either hire staff to come on board to do it, or a lot quicker than it would take for us just to do it on our own. So in this bundle, what we're looking at is our water meter replacement projects, our SCADA project, and this is our supervisory controls acquisition data acquisition system, which allows us to be able to control our operation of our pumps remotely without having to send staff to go drive out there all the time. And it's also, this bundle A project also looks at doing replacements of our water fixtures throughout our city buildings to allow for some more high efficiency or more effective water use at our buildings. So that's bundle A. A bundle B were projects that had a simple payback of less than 10 years. So simple payback essentially means if you look at the cost of the project on one hand, and you look at the savings on the other hand, how many years would it take for the savings from that project to pay off the cost of the program itself? So when we looked at those projects, we kind of grouped projects together that could pay for themselves in less than 10 years. And when we start talking about how the whole bundling works and how you use savings from one bundle to work on others, then you'll kind of see why we wanted to group it that way. So bundle B included projects that could pay for themselves in less than 10 years. Bundle C projects were our energy resiliency projects. So these are projects that include solar and battery backup and EV charging, which will allow the city to have a little bit more independence on our energy consumption. So we all went through the PSPS last summer, and it seems like it was just yesterday where we were kind of scrambling, trying to figure out who was going to be shut off when by PG&E. Well, one of the great things about this program and this bundle is it's going to allow for some energy independency at certain critical facilities here in the city. And we'll cover all those in our next couple of slides. And our fourth and final bundle are projects that have a simple payback of greater than 10 years. Still very important projects for us to do, like HVAC. Again, this is part of that environmental portion that include that builds up on our comfort in the building, HVAC being one of them, our transformers at our building being a second one there. Still very important projects for us to do, but the payback isn't just quite there. It's always greater than 10 years. So you'll see us talk about how we can utilize savings from other bundles, such as the one bundle B, which pays itself off in 10 years, to then use that money to help us out to pay for items that we have in bundle C and bundle D. Let's go to the next slide. So now we'll start talking through what items are included in each bundle, and then we'll talk about the savings that are involved in every single project. So in bundle A, we looked at three ECMs that are included in there. So ECM number 12, 13, and 14. 12 being the water fixture upgrades, 13 being the water meter upgrades that we talked about, and 14 being our SCADA upgrades. So it includes SCADA, pumping, and automated disinfection. All these projects have some form of CIP funding available in our CIP right now. So we wanted to group these projects together, get them done, and look at applying certain CIP funds, dollars that we have right now onto these programs. So that's why we have this bundle, bundle A as one of our programs. Let's go to the next slide. So the savings that we can get from this program is they kind of go as follows. So if we did the projects for the city infrastructure, the water fixture upgrades, we would see a savings on our water of about $30,000. And our energy cost savings about $750. And our annual O&M savings, this is going to be a reduction amount of O&M that we do. It's about $1,000. This is all annual amounts right here. For our water meters is where we see a bulk of our savings. So we'll look at being able to recover upwards of $680,000 in water revenue just by having smarter meters and meters that are more accurate. We're also seeing an opportunity savings there. So I call it opportunity savings is because we have staff right now that work on doing the meter readings. So we have meter readers out there, and the O&M cost there is about $416,000 a year. So the opportunity savings there is now those staff members can work in other areas in the city, and we see an opportunity savings of $416,000 a year by having this meter done. So so things like meter repairs is something that's new work that can get done, or working in other areas of the city. So it's a great opportunity savings there for the city. And the last item there is for SCADA. So we would see a savings there to the city on an annual amount of about $146,000 a year, and O&M savings of about $42,000 every single year. So really you see there the O&M savings is cut in the amount of false alarm calls that folks have to go through. Currently what you have happen is when we do it again, an alarm call at one of our pump stations, folks have to physically drive out from where they are to go investigate it. And sometimes it's as simple as a door just being left open. So we really get an opportunity savings here of having the SCADA system hooked up where we can remotely troubleshoot and know what the problem is without having to deploy staff every single time to go do it. Next slide, please. So those are the items that cover bundle A. Now we're going to move on to bundle B. But before I'll just go one slide real quick here. Sorry about that. And just kind of do a summation of some other things about bundle A. So if you took in totality all the projects under bundle A, what you would get cost-wise is about $22 million in work that needs to be done. But in addition to all that, your savings that you get is about $860,000 every single year just in water and energy savings. And then your O&M savings about $460,000 annually. So project really is set up to be able to pay for itself over a number of years. In addition to all of this, what we also look for is to find incentives that we can apply for. So one of the incentives that we are working on is for our water fixture, our water meter upgrades. The Santa Clara Valley Water District actually offers a program where they reimburse certain dollars amounts to cities that put in smart meters, such as the ones that we're looking at putting in here. It's paid off annually over a 7-year period. So that incentive gives us about $155,000 every single year over 7 years. So that's close to, or actually adds up just over $1 million for the entire program. So that's money that's coming back into this program to knock off a portion of that $22 million price tag for this package of projects. In addition to all that, we still have about—
Tony,
yes,
really quick, and only because I've seen Commissioner Kong raise her hand for quite a few moments. I believe she might have a question about Bundle A.
Okay, good, go for it.
Yes, I do. I think it's directly to what Tony was saying. I think if you're going to bring this to council, it'll be good to have the cost next to the saving. That way, all in the same slide, you can actually envision how much is the investment and how much is the return. So that's the feedback I wanted to mention.
Absolutely, and thank you for that feedback there. One of the reasons why we don't have that right now is there's still some portion of this financing discussion that still needs to happen. So not all the money is available right now, and we're still working with our finance department on determining what the financing cost is. So that's the one caveat about the cost of the project. So we have a cost for how much the project is going to cost, the cost for what the project is going to take for us to get it done. But we also have to determine if we don't have all the money up front and we have to borrow it and then use the savings that we get from the project to pay for it, what that cost is going to be. So yes, when we do go to council, we will have the full detailed information on one slide so that they'll get to see both the opportunity and the cost that's going to take. And then again, how much is going to take for us to get in the positive on the program. So thank you for that feedback.
Thank you, Tony.
All right. So let's go to the next slide and we'll talk Bundle B. So Bundle B is all of our lighting projects. So this is the ultimate low-hanging fruit package. Every time you do an ESCO project and you start talking about doing lighting project, this is your low-hanging fruit. You get projects paid off under 10 years, and then the savings that you generate from doing the project just keep going. So when you start looking at doing packaging later on down the line, the thought process always is you take the savings you get from doing these little quick wins that are here and then use that to pay for other projects down the line. So let's go to the next slide and we can talk about the savings. So under Bundle B, we've got a couple of packages. So we're going to be doing facility lighting upgrades. This is looking at our main buildings, both interior and exterior lighting on the buildings. So your annual cost savings from just doing the facility lighting projects is close to $240,000, and your O&M cost savings about $80,000 every single year. When you do your retrofit of your street lights throughout the city, there's a big chunk of savings that you have there. You're looking at a savings of about $324,000 every single year. Your annual O&M savings is about $52,000 each year. Let's go to the next slide. And then we're also looking at our projects for sports lighting. So we're looking at doing improvements to sports lighting over at Cardoza, Hall Memorial Park, and Dixon. So Dixon Landings is newer lighting that we're looking at exploring to do. So at some point we'll look to add that in a later slide. But looking at Cardoza, the baseball field, the softball field there, and Hall Memorial Park soccer field, you're looking at a total projected savings of about $11,000 every single year, and with O&M savings just over $2,600 every single year. And our park lighting retrofit, so this is lighting that we're talking about for our our basketball court lightings at our parks, tennis court lightings at our parks, and some of the lighting that we have in our pathway. Doing upgrades on those will give you about $38,000 in O&M in annual savings every single year, with about $7,700 in O&M savings each year. When you do those projects, when you look at all projects as in totality, Bundle B projects will cost the city about $6.7 million to complete. Your savings from your energy and water savings, or just your energy savings for this instance here, is about $614,000 every single year, with $143,000 also added to that for O&M savings. So you're looking at a project that could pay for itself in just 9 years. So that's a pretty big deal here for this Bundle B. It's really our quick win project, and you can look at that and say, okay, what can I do with the savings once this project gets done paying for itself? Let's go to the next slide. So Bundle C is our energy resiliency project. So these are projects that we talked about to give the city some energy independence and not be so reliant on the fluctuations from PG&E availability to provide us with power. So this looks at three packages here. One is ECM number 1, which is our solar PV projects. ECM number 2 was adding battery backup to our system. So it's really important when you look at building solar on your buildings is also to have a way to store that. Because if you're just taking all the generation, you just dump it on the grid, in those times where you don't have a lot of energy, that's where your batteries come in to power up your buildings along the way. And you don't have to rely on generators if you do that. And then the last thing that we had in this bundle here is providing some sort of a EV charging at these solar panels that we're going to put in as well. Let's go to the next slide. So for this project, we're looking at the solar PV, and there's a couple locations that we're looking at applying this to. One is over at City Hall, which would give us a projected savings of about $59,000 every single year and generate over 400,000 kilowatts of energy at that location. The other location we're looking at putting in the solar panels will be over at the Public Works building. So Public Works is shared with PD, Public Works, and IT. That would give the city a savings of about $100,000 every single year. We're also going to look to add more solar panels to the sports center. So there's some opportunity areas that we found there that we could add more solar panels. That would give the city a savings of $59,000. That's close to $60,000 every single year. And we're also looking at adding solar panels for the senior center. So there's an opportunity area on the roof of the senior center for us to install some solar panels. Savings there about $47,000 every single year. And the last but not the least is the community center, adding some solar canopies there to give us a savings of about $30,000 every single year. Now, I want to just pause there for a minute to just kind of talk about the landscape of those areas and why we chose these buildings. So when we looked at where we could apply solar panels and where we want to divert the energy to, we looked at the criticality of these facilities. So there's no argument there that City Hall is pretty darn critical. It's a lot of our operations, if not all operations, operate out of there. So we want to make sure we have the solar panels and in that location to provide some energy to that building. PD Public Works is PD building houses our 911 center. So having some resiliency there and having a building that could stay in power running if a power outage occurs was pretty important. Sports Center is considered one of our city's resource centers. So if we did have a major power outage in the entire region, we do require folks, or we do ask for folks to go to the Sports Center to cool off or to charge their phones. So we want to make sure that that system was set up such that we could use it as a resource for our community. Now, the senior center, community center currently right now don't have any kind of battery backup to them, don't have any kind of generator connected to them right now, or no solar. So when we do experience power outages at the senior center and the community center, it just goes dark. And if you've ever been to the senior center and seen seniors walking by, that's not a pretty sight. Or if you had a community center and all those kids that use that as a resource, it's not a pretty sight to have a power outage occur at those two facilities and not have any power to support them. So really what we looked to do was to try to make sure that we provided power to these critical facilities. So with the program that we have in place right now, we're diverting with the panels that we put over at the City Hall complex, at the senior center and at the community center, we're able to offset 100% of the power requirements over at the senior center and community center. So if we did have a power outage that would occur, senior center and community center would be fully powered with the canopies that we're putting in place, as opposed to going in the dark as they are right now. The remaining power that we then generate in the area then goes to City Hall, but City Hall does have a backup generator, so we're able to keep that building powered up if that were the case. Okay. We're also looking at, let's go to the next slide and talk about batteries. The other thing that we're looking at doing is providing battery backups at some of these critical facilities. So you'll see the new facility that we have on the list there is a Fire Station 1, which is also considered one of our resource areas. So providing a battery backup system for PD, City Hall, Senior Center, Community Center, Sports Center, Fire Station 1. And the reason why we're looking at doing that is when you have those swings in your energy, just kind of the idea of just generating electricity with your solar panels, dumping on the grid for it to go away is not, to me, is not considered smart money. What you want to do is generate your own electricity, store it on site with you, so that when you have those fluctuations, or if you go into the middle of the night, as things start to die down, you can start to draw from your battery instead, and use that energy to power up before you have to rely on going onto the grid. So all in total, when you look at the projected savings that we could get by putting our batteries in, we're talking about $37,000 every single year. But the value that adds is far outweighs that $37,000 value that you see there. So when we look at Bundle C, our overall savings that we would get from this program is about $313,000 every single year. And the project cost to implement the program is about $10.3 million. But there's also more benefits that we have in place. So we are currently working with NG on putting applications in for the self-generation incentive program that's offered by the California Public Utilities Commission. So they call it SCHIP for short. If we're successful at getting funding from this program, we could get anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000 in grant money that will go towards paying for this program. That's a big deal. The other item that we are excited about, which I think we got this one in the bag. I think I can kind of say that one, got this one in the bag, is a grant money that we're going to be getting from Silicon Valley Clean Energy. The amount is going to be $700,000 that's going to go towards this program. So right off the bat, you're talking $1 million in grant money that we can get to apply to this program right here to help offset the costs and get some resiliency, much needed resiliency to get to our program and our critical facilities. So overall, when you look at this project by itself, the simple payback, or the amount of time it takes for it to pay for itself, is about 30 years. But we start talking later on about doing these bundles, you'll see how other projects could help offset a lot of these costs that we have here. Let's go to the next slide. Our final bundle is our Bundle D project, and these are some of the guys that we really need to help us out, but their payback just doesn't always add up the way that we wanted to see. So these are our transformer projects, our HVAC projects, and energy management system upgrades. So anytime you walk by a transformer, and you hear a loud hissing, buzzing sound, that means that that transformer is on its way out the door. You want to get that thing replaced as soon as possible. HVAC systems can really wreak havoc on a couple of things. One, the comfort and workability in the area is very much dependent on HVAC systems working properly. And also just the overall age, as they continue to age, is a big draw on the electricity usage. So we looked at these projects here and identified critical facilities that much needed upgrades to the transformers, HVAC, and all around EMS upgrade to the system. Let's go to the next slide. So your savings here for this bundle aren't as jaw-dropping as the other ones were. That's why they have a longer payback period. So your annual savings, when you do your replacements of your transformers at City Hall, your PD Public Works building, and the Sports Center, the annual savings there are $23,000 annually. And when you do your upgrades to your HVAC systems for the critical facilities, you see an annual savings there of just $5,000, but you see a bigger savings on your O&M cost savings of $81,000 because it ties directly to being able to cancel or limit your use of certain contracts that we have in place for HVAC management. And then your EMS upgrade, your energy management system upgrades, don't give you any annual savings to get done, but where your bang comes in is your $8,000 there for O&M savings. So less having to run out and do troubleshooting and changing different climates for different rooms. So you have a better, easier way to manage the climate in different areas of the building. So bundle D, when you look at that project on its own, it would cost the city $3 million to implement the items that we have here under bundle D. Your energy savings that you would receive from this program are $30,000, and your O&M savings is about $8,000. So you're looking at $38,000 in savings. We don't have any incentives for this one that we can apply for. So this one gives you a long payback period before you could see the benefits or see it pay for itself. But that's where we get into discussions about how we could bundle projects up. So what we have Engie looking at for us right now is what would it take if you took, for example, bundle A, which is all the projects that we currently have CIP funding for, and you just took those projects and left it out. And you said, I want to do a program that consists of everything from bundle B, which are my quick wins for my lighting projects. I want to do everything on bundle C because it has all my resiliency efforts. And I want to do everything in bundle D because it gives me that comfort and workability in these buildings. What would that program look like? So that program, if you took all those three bundles, which is your B, C, and D, would cost you about $20 million to get done. Your savings from doing those three projects all together would add up to $1.1 million every single year. So you're talking about a program that would pay for itself in 18 years. So that's that act of bundling. So you took your bundle B projects, which had a very quick payback. You took your bundle C projects and bundle D projects, and you mash them all together, and you get a program out of that would cost the city $20 million to implement, savings of $1.1 million every single year. It pays for itself in 18 years, and then the city realizes those savings in perpetuity going forward. And we're looking at when we look at the life of these projects, we're looking at life of these projects at about 25 years. So that's the whole act of bundling and looking at the program as a whole. Let's go to the next slide. So the next steps that we're looking at is, so today, May 20th, that's where we are today, where we are giving you this presentation to get your feedback on what you think so far and things that we should look further into. And then, like I said, the council agendas are getting more and more packed with a lot of issues as we get towards the end of the year and dealing with COVID-19. So we would like to get this to council in the second meeting in June. But there's a likelihood that we may get pushed back to August, the first meeting in August to get done. So we're prepared for that. But at that meeting, where we'll present these same energy conservation measures to our council, and we'll also look for them to approve the bundles that we have in place. And at that time, they could choose to take an item out of a bundle or get rid of a bundle altogether. And then we'll come back either in August and September, depending on when we go forward, and come back to council to actually approve the energy service contract with ENGIE if we're successful, and then also approve the program financing. And if we're all successful doing all of that, then work would then begin on this project in the fall of 2020. And we'll start realizing our savings almost instantly or a year later, at least when the first measures are put in place. So I know that was a lot to go through, and I'm pretty sure we'll have a lot of questions. We'll have to bounce back and forth between slides, but I will pause there and welcome any questions.
And if I can remind everybody to unmute your microphone. And Commissioner Shreve, I still see you muted. Commissioner Khan, I still see you muted. We do have a question from Commissioner Sexton.
Yes. So this is on, I believe, the slide that bundle B, or sorry, no, bundle. Well, could we go back to the slide? And
so if I'm hearing you right, let's go back to bundle B. Is this all the lighting projects?
let's see. I think no, actually, A. Yes, so it would be the slide that showed the water and then savings. I'm sorry, my speaker seems to be giving some feedback on my audio system.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, there's a slide that was additional revenues from billing.
Right.
Okay. Could you speak a little bit about why there's projected billing for some additional water? Is that water billed today?
Right. So so water meters are funky in the sense that as your meters get older, they don't speed up. They actually speed backwards. So you don't get an accurate count on the actual. You don't get the best count on how much water is being consumed through your water meters. So the thought here is that with upgraded meters that actually are very accurate, then you'll be able to realize better savings, and that you'll be able to realize better billing on actual water that's consumed. Meters are only accurate up to the point of when they are still of the right age, and that's just the sad truth about that. Also, another good thing about doing the AMI project is that folks get to be able to see on a regular basis what their consumption is. So what you also get to realize there is if there are any leaks that occur on your system, whether from the customer side, they can actually know up front that, hey, I'm seeing my meter tick, but I'm not really using any water in my system. What's the cause of all that? So we're able to get a jump on all of those a lot earlier. So, but to answer your question, the main thing about it is accuracy, and we do a water audit on our systems every single year, and our goal always is to try to get below 6%. We've not gotten there, but 6 to 8% kind of looks pretty good. We haven't gotten there yet since I've been with the city. But a lot of projects that we put in place, leak detection work that we're doing, AMI work that we're doing here, more accurate meters, all that's going to help us be able to have better numbers on our water audit, and to make sure that the amount of water that we're actually buying and distributing to residents is actually what we're paying for. The last thing we want to do is continue to pay for water and then not be able to realize its true cost.
Thank you very much. That was helpful. Hopefully the accuracy in terms of the meters will definitely help. If you anticipate that the billing for individual residency will sort of increase due to the more accurate meter, it would be great to do upfront sort of outreach to folks so that they realize where the increase in their water bill is coming from. And because as you are very well aware, that's a sensitive subject for our residents.
That's a great point. And it's not the first time I've heard this story before. So that's a really great point you bring up. Part of the outreach that folks do when they do these mass meter replacement projects is that warning to customers that you're going to see things spike a little bit because we're reading a lot better. So that's a great point. I think when we do our outreach program, which by the way, one of the benefits of working with ENGIE is the outreach component that they actually bring to the table. So one of those aspects of doing this project is also going to be doing more outreach to customers and residents so they understand that you're getting a new heart and you're going to be a lot more energetic than you were before in terms of your water consumption. So,
okay.
A couple of questions here, Tony. So will the water consumption actually spike with more accuracy, or could it actually go down? Do you have any predictions or way to know that?
So it's twofold. Your water consumption doesn't necessarily spike. We just measure it better.
Yeah.
So it's always been there. I mean, the water consumption has always been there. We just weren't picking it up, reading it properly. The expectation is that when you do have a brand new meter, it reads more accurately, and so you're always going to get better readings. And it could go the other way too. It could go the other way too. It could also be where we look where the numbers start to tick on the other side, where the meter wasn't reading properly before. It could also go the other way too. But traditionally, what happens is when you take an old meter out, as they get older, they slow down. You take an old meter out and put a newer meter in, it gives you more accurate readings, and which means that the actual amount of water that's being consumed actually gets billed.
Well, I understand the actuality and the accuracy and all that, but your phrase "slow down" is the meters slow down. Does that mean that as meters age, they don't they underestimate your water consumption? Is that a typical pattern?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, there you go.
That's correct.
That's key. Yeah, we're going to need to acclimate everybody to this then. Okay, I have one more. I'm new to this. What is SIP funds? Do they have to be paid back?
The SGIP funds, that's so they do not have to get paid back. So you apply for them, and if we get approved, which really hope we do, those SGIP funds do not have to get paid back. And even the grant funds from Silicon Valley Clean Energy, those do not get paid back. So those are monies that these organizations are putting aside to try to help cities like us become more energy efficient and energy resilient. And resiliency really being the key topic there is getting folks to be more energy independent. So the short answer is no, they do not have to get paid back.
All right, thank you.
Any additional questions? Commissioner Sexton and Ling, you still have, Commissioner Kong here has her hand up.
Yes, I do. So my question is also on the water saving. And help me understand this, Tony, because utility has because it's a fee, and usually it has to be self-contained, right? Any saving has to be contained within the utility program itself.
Mhm.
So even though you have projected like the OMM savings of over $400,000, and you mentioned something that staff can be put towards other things, it cannot be put towards anything outside of the utility program, correct?
That is correct. That is correct. So the idea that we talked about here was the possibility of repurposing the staff within the water fund. So you would have staff that were involved with doing meter reading. Maybe their job becomes doing meter repairs. Maybe their job becomes doing meter accuracy testing. But it would be all within the water fund. So your benefit would be realized in the water fund. But you're absolutely correct. We would not then take those staff members and then plop them in another group somewhere else and have the water fund pay for them.
Great. And in that case, it's also in a way that if it didn't mean that there is perhaps excess of staffing, it could also lead to maybe more controlled costs in the future. Is that potentially on the table here when we look at all the staff saving?
So in this situation here, our staff savings is the existing staff that we have. In other programs and other bundles we talked about, the O&M savings, our majority of that is tied towards contracts that we use. So those allow for immediate savings to the public because we don't need those contracts anymore. But on top of that, with some of these better measures in place, so like our lighting project, for example, our street lighting project that we're looking at here for this program, one of the items that we have in there are a notification system that will be included. So when a street light goes out, we actually get alerted to which one it actually is in a location. So those are those benefits and improvements that we can do with a program like this. So it cuts down on the amount of time that we would either have a light out in the field or have to have someone drive around trying to figure out which light it is. We'll get an automatic notification saying that light at this corner, at this location is out. So those are those program efficiencies that I think you're talking about, which we'll be able to realize once we institute a program such as this one here.
Let's see, a couple more. Well, one more on the water. Again, just to Patty's point and Lee's point, Ling's point. I think the sensitivity over water rates is definitely high here, and I wonder, have you done any analysis of what if, and I don't even know if this is possible, but can this upgrade be turned more into a savings program back to the customers, who are paying the water rates? Is that could that be diverted instead of, or should it be diverted, back to the folks of Milpitas instead of actually pushed into offsetting these other costs?
So you raise a great point there, and I just want to make sure I emphasize this. So we are very conscious of the color of money, and the color of money to us means water money only pays for water stuff, and sewer money only pays for sewer stuff, and general fund can pay for anything. So the savings that we realize, especially under bundle A, which is why we don't really lump bundle A with all the other bundle B, C, and D, those are all general fund related items. So any savings that come out from this bundle A, only if it's a water savings that gets realized, it only goes to paying for water related items only. So the benefit to the residents and to the customer from water is going to be realized. So we're not going to take any savings that get generated from here and go, great, now we can go do a project in a park. We legally cannot even do that. Excellent. And we won't.
Okay.
So the residents are going to see a savings in that. And when we do our next water rate analysis. If this project is already in place by then, when we do our water rates analysis, they'll look at the actual cost to the residents, and the benefit will be realized as part of the rate.
Right. Great. Thank you for the clarification.
Do we have any other questions? I don't see any hands come up.
I have a couple.
Yeah.
Is that Commissioner Reed?
Yes. So these water meter retrofits, are they across the board, commercial and residential, on every single unit?
Yes, for the ones that we haven't. So we've been, as a practice in our department, if we have a complaint about a water meter that's not reading properly or needs to be repaired, we've been replacing with brand new meters already. So this will be the balance of the meters that have not been replaced thus far, and it's across the board for both residential and commercial customers.
Do you not have a program right now that you've contracted to actually have a company come out and do water meter efficiency checks? And if they're not accurate, they don't replace the meter, they replace the internal components. Is that correct?
That I'm not familiar with that program.
Well, I'm asking because I know that they're doing it to several of our district meters. And so that's why I'm asking if this is across the board for commercial and residential. Because as a district, we're affected by this as well. Mm-hmm. And I know that the city has a company that comes out and they've looked at the district's water meters, and we have had several water meters that have been in question, and we've come back to find that the components have been replaced, but the water meter in its entirety has not been replaced.
So okay, so yeah, so then so I think you probably have a larger size meter. So our practice that we do for meters that are 2 inches and under and 2 inches and above, so it depends on the size of the meter that you have. Which
in these cases are 4 inch.
Okay, yeah. So all right, so yeah, you're in a different ballpark then when it comes to our meter program. So when we have meters that are 2 inches and under, our common practice is it's just much easier just to go through and replace the meter. So that's just it. For meters that are 2 inches and higher, then that's when you're talking about what you're saying there is we do our testing of the meter to see the accuracy, and then yes, there is an ability to change just the components of the meter to make it work better.
So Tony, can I go back to my question then?
Sure.
Citywide water meter retrofits. I asked earlier if they were all water meters in this program that would be residential and commercial. And I did hear yes initially, but is it only up to 2 inches, or is it doesn't matter what size the water meter is? It's
not going to matter what size it is, because we're trying to switch from the manual read meters to the automated meters.
Got it.
So hopefully the meters on your system have been at some point replaced to automated meters. If they have not, then they'll be replaced to automated meters. Okay. So that's really what's going to end up happening is any meter that's not automated right now will be replaced with an automated meter. And we've been going through on our own, especially for the 2 inches and under meters, as we've been getting complaints about the need to replace them. We've been replacing them with automated meters right now. We still go out and read them because we haven't turned on our cellular signals yet to pick up the signals directly. But once this program is all completed, then everything becomes automated at that point going forward. That's a great question.
So 2 more questions. I think I heard you say the total cost of funding these projects was about 20 million over, and then a savings over 18 years that would pay for them. Is that correct?
Yes. So that looks at if you bundled your projects in B, C, and D.
Right.
So
with that said, is a portion of that 20 million funded by CIP and other grants, and then the remainder of that is upfront cost by the city?
So with looking at that $20 million project, the incentives that are involved in those ones would be the two incentives I talked about from the SCHIP and from SVCE. So that's about $1 million that could get knocked off there. And then the rest of it would have to be funded. Now, there's no CIP funds available for projects in bundles B, C, and D. So you'd have to get some upfront financing, secure that, and then the savings that get generated from that, from implementing those bundles, are then used to pay for the lease payments on the financing until that's paid off. In our case here, we paid off in about 17, 18 years. And then all the costs that at that point, in our case here, we're looking at the savings of 1.1 million, then get realized every single year, and they just go into the city's coffers.
So the city looks to fund a portion of it through a lease program of some sort or a borrowing of some sort. And is savings, is the cost of what they use to borrow that money or under the lease program also a part of the overall cost that then gets recouped over the 20 year or over the 18 years of repayment?
So I'm hearing right. So yes. So step one is you pick the projects you want to do, and you realize the financing or you realize the cost of it. If you have money available, you just pay for it, which I don't think not a lot of people do that. So then to your point, yes, you then secure some kind of a financing mechanism to then pay for it. But then you don't make the payments yourself. You then say, okay, now that I've reduced the costs of, say, the amount of energy that I'm using, I'll take that incremental cost. In our case here, and this looking at this scenario, it'd be 1.1 million, and then you put it towards the payments. Now there are times where, once we kind of go into the detailed numbers of it, there are times where your lease payments are actually less than the amount of savings that you actually get. So let's say you have 1.1 million in savings. There are times where your lease payments are actually maybe say $900,000 or $700,000. So you'll see an instant savings on some of these things. But the idea about this whole ESCO program is that your savings that you realize have to be less than have to be more than the cost of implementing the project.
So with specifically in the bundles that have lighting retrofits, I'm thinking about what PG&E has or offers and whether or not that's inclusive of this program, where you essentially take 0% interest loans to essentially pay for the cost of the project up front. And then, as you said, you pay it back interest-free to PG&E until the savings are realized. In this case, could be 18 years. I don't know. In respect to maybe those are under 10 years. I don't remember. But is the city considering, or have they looked at that piece or project that's available? Or are they something totally different that ENGIE's providing or offering?
Yes, so ENGIE is helping us with trying to identify funding mechanisms that we could use. But we use a consultant, and if you've been in any of our council meetings, you've seen us use, I think they're called Fieldman Roll-Up. They do a lot of our bonding for the city. They worked on our water and sewer bonds, and they do some other work for us as well. They're going to be our financial advisors on this program. So they're also helping us with trying to identify the cheapest money we can get to fund these efforts.
So the fund, they're looking to identify the funding source.
That's correct.
Got it. And so with these projects that you've discussed with us, Tony, do all of them appear to be or have secure funding, or that's still unknown?
That's still unknown. So they're twofold to that. One is we don't want to get ahead of our council and overly shop projects that they haven't approved. So we do want to get their approval on the projects. And then our next step then would be to really secure the financing. So we'll have a little bit more strength to go forward with to shop and say, hey, our council gave us approval to do these efforts. We want to get a cost for these efforts.
Got it.
So step one is here today, getting your feedback, which has been very valuable. The step two will be going to our council to say, here's what we have. What do you want us to do? And give them some preliminary costs and preliminary numbers from what banks could charge us. And that's where our financial advisor really comes in.
Okay.
Once they approve what we're doing, then we can really go forth with securing the actual financing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great input.
Great input, Commissioner Shreve. Any additional questions or comments?
Yeah, I got a question.
I've got a couple.
Go ahead.
All right, real quick. Well, I'll go as fast as I can. Let's see. Okay, so Tony, on that 18-year estimate of payback, does that include loan fees? I don't suppose it does, right? Loan.
It does not yet. Yeah, so it does not yet because we don't have an interest rate from the banks determined yet.
Okay.
So that's just the cost of the project and the savings alone. But if we did add the cost of financing will increase that sum, but until we fully shop, until we get approval from council on what package to move forward with, and then truly shop the packages to the financing groups, we won't have a good idea. We won't have a firm cost for the interest rate. We have some ideas on what the interest could be. We have some maximum numbers of what they could be. But until we fully shop this with the blessing of council, we won't have those numbers fully firmed.
Okay. Let's see. Next one is on those batteries. What is the lifetime, or how long would those batteries last if they're fully charged? Do you have an estimate of that? Is this going to be
not readily in front of me? I don't know if you
want me to jump in on that one?
Yeah, please. I think you know this one.
Actually, I don't know off the top of my head. I know we are looking at the 2-hour batteries for the critical facilities. I believe typical battery life right now is still in the range of 10 plus years, if that's what you were asking. And we are looking at having these batteries be able to support the building for, at least 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Next one is, I didn't see on slide 15 any mention of electric car charging. Is that included?
It's there. We are looking at where we are putting in the solar carports, also putting in electric vehicle charging. There's a picture of them. We are looking at actually a DC fast charger at the sports center complex, and then level 2 chargers at City Hall.
And the reason why you didn't see anything there is because there's no
there's no savings.
There's no
it's
savings.
just a benefit.
Right. It's like, well, okay. All
yes,
right.
but we are also having NG work with SVCE and others for electric vehicle charging station incentives, including the Cal EVIP incentives that are coming available later this year. And then Silicon Valley Clean Energy has an add-on incentive to that.
Well, I wonder if there's any kind of connection we can make with ChargePoint or others to actually, compensate. We'll put in the facilities, but they pay back somehow, some kind of a royalty. So something to think about. The last one I've got is on the streetlight upgrades. I know there, the city's doing LED upgrades now. Does this is this over and above, or a full replacement of those LEDs as well as the traditionals? Or?
It's a continuation of the same program. So I don't have the number off the top of my head about how many streetlights we have, but we've done quite a few already. And what we looked for Angie to do here was to continue on with that process. So we're speccing the same LEDs that we have right now, so there won't be any big difference. You won't see a difference in one lighting in one area or the other. But it's a continuation of the city's efforts that we started many years ago, and then we kind of picked up some more steam until we ran out of the lights that we have. So.
Okay. I have a quick comment on this. You know, there's no deflectors added to those LEDs, and so the light actually transmits out horizontally, and it is very bright. It's quite a hazard on the road from far away, and there's one in our backyard that is absolutely annoying. So it'd be great to just, you know, refactor those to, you know, make the light go down a little bit and put a cone around it, around the top. Anyway, FYI, that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question. So do we have other vendors bidding for the same product?
So is your question, is your question whether we have any other vendors aside from NG or?
Yes.
Okay, so we did go through an RFP process early on in this whole project here. This is when we issued an RFP, so request for proposals. We interviewed there were about 6 companies that submitted bids for this work. 2 of them did not advance, and 4, I think the 3 or 4 of them we had oral interviews with. NG came out as part of a committee, after a committee did all the reviews and oral, both the written and oral interviews, NG came out the top. So they went through a rigorous process before they became our selected vendors for this program.
But the amount of saving is only estimated recently, or when they make RFP, they came out with the savings numbers?
So the savings numbers that are developed are based on a couple of things. One was based on their experience doing this type of work, and they've done this type of work for school districts and other cities left and right. The other key part, which gives me a lot of comforts me a lot at night, is that they actually brought actual contractors out to the site to review the site and submit proposals to NG for this work. So solar, for example, I'll just use solar for example, they had contractors actually come out and do an actual site walk and submit actual bids to NG to do the work. And that's the same for water meters, and that's the same for some other critical projects that we're putting in place. So the numbers that we got here, I feel pretty good about.
So when they do the home remodeling project, always they give you an estimate, and by the time they start working on it, they say, oh, here needs some upgrade, there need to fix. Do we have similar issues with those kind of contract in city contracts?
That's a great question. Yeah. So part of what we're doing here. So this is a partnership that we have here with NG, and we're still working out the details for the energy service agreement. So this is the actual installation agreement that we have in place. But what you got to look at here is NG is working on our behalf as our designers. So really what the expectation on our side is that if there are any changes that occur, they need to control that. They need to do all the homework that they need to do to determine what's out there, what could possibly be a change. So let's say you have someone, when contractors come and they want to remodel your home, they crack open the wall and then they start finding different things. Well, our expectation is that NG will do that homework so that if we do have change orders, because you can never say you'll never have a change order as part of doing a project. But if you do have a change order, it's limited, and we don't have what I would consider scope creep, where they start doing the work and, like you said, it's, oh, what about this or what about that? We want to make sure that all that information is vetted up front, and NG's been doing a solid job on doing that for us.
Thank you.
Thank you. That seems to be a perfect presentation. Unless we have, yes, I was going to you, Commissioner Kong.
Yes,
One more question, yes.
Yes, I do. So going back to the bundles, knowing that the budget climate for the upcoming year might be very challenging, and you're going to be going to council with a proposal of bundling B, C, and D, the amount may be intimidating. So I'm just wondering if do you know if like council has the, like you said, options to take out projects and take out certain bundles. Does that in any way change the numbers? Because if NG is quoting you based on bundle, is this based on individual price, such that if you take out certain project, it doesn't change the individual item? Or is there already built into the savings is built into the price because the whole thing is bundled together? Does that change any of that numbers?
Yeah, so each energy conservation measure on its own has its own savings, whether it's water or energy or O&M, and it has its own cost. The whole idea of bundling is just grouping them all together. So if you took, for example, the one we're looking at on our screen right now, and council decides, hey, I really like the battery, I really like the solar, but let's save money a little bit and toss out the EV charging. That can just get withdrawn, and your bundle C still is those two projects. If council were to decide to say, let's just only do solar and take out the battery part and take out the energy part, that ECM number 1 you see there for solar still has its own individual costs, individual savings that are involved with it as well. So how the bundles get put together and how things get taken and added into it, it does not affect necessarily affect too much, because each item on its own has its own defined on its own. Now, what would change though is your paybacks on certain things, because if you take out certain projects that have such a higher O&M or higher energy savings, you take those out, then the project becomes a little less attractive. So the ability for the project to pay for itself in a short amount of time, depending on what you take out, could affect it. But I think that would just be a conversation we need to have with council. And we're very sensitive to the economic climate that we're in, and understand that some of these are going to be tough decisions. But I think the thing that we're looking at is if we can truly bring forth a program that stands alone, that is independent and can pay for itself over time, and allows the city to reap some benefits in the process, to actually maybe put some money back into the city, maybe in its first year, who knows? We'll have to look at the financing to see if that will be possible. We think that that's a good program for us to stand behind.
Yeah, I definitely agree that this is a great program. I think as long as the financing work out in a way that the budget can still have a low startup cost, and then pays for itself through the saving, it may appeal to the council a lot better during this budget crisis.
I agree 100%.
That's all I have, Martha.
Thank you. It looks like we have, based on your faces there, it looks like we have a full clarity of this project, and it's pretty exciting the way it's been laid out. With that said, do we want to move over to section B, which is sustainability and the virtual events and public education update?
Sure, we can go ahead and do that. I was just going to give the commission a verbal update. I know that there was a lot of effort and energy put into our Earth Day resource fair for this year, and unfortunately that was canceled in early to mid-March. Though I think the Earth, based on the shelter in place and some of the photos and data coming out of the Air Quality Management District and others, the Earth actually got to take a big deep sigh, and is doing a lot better in terms of air quality and visibility. So in some respects, there was a good kind of reset for the planet this year. I think everyone's also seeing less traffic on the roads and less pollution associated with our vehicles. We have been pretty good at pivoting and kind of changing and adapting our strategy for outreach and education. The City Council did proclaim April 22nd as Earth Day. And we did some great revamping of the city's sustainability page and posting of online and virtual Earth Day events. And so we did encourage residents and the community to get involved online. You can see the new sustainability webpage where we are continuing to update with virtual events and ways and tips that people can do to be more climate friendly while they're sheltering in place. One of the interesting things that we've been able to do too, and Linda has been really great at this, is coordinating with the Bay Area Water Supply and Conservation Agency and hosting virtual webinars for sustainable landscaping and water conservation. And so I think we've done 3 so far in partnership with Bosca and other cities. In total for those 3, we've had 47 Milpitas residents participate in those virtual classes. We're actually seeing that the online attendance has been better than in person. And so we're going to be looking and evaluating how, even after shelter in place, what we might do to take advantage of that and maybe offer some combination of both in-person and ongoing online webinars. And then we're also continuing to promote the county's composting workshops and supporting other efforts. This week is National Public Works Week, and so I think you should be seeing on the city's Facebook page as well as Nextdoor posts recognizing our kind of unseen essential workers, those who are continuing to work in the city to supply clean water, make sure our waste gets properly handled, and that our sanitary and storm collection systems are operating, as well as folks maintaining our public safety fleet vehicles. So there's posts pretty much every day, sometimes more than one, highlighting all the good work from our public works staff. And we're also using that as an opportunity to educate and provide resources. I think we're also doing downloadable coloring books for kids. So one of the things that we saw on one of the Nextdoor posts was, this is a great resource for those of us homeschooling right now. And so we're really able to learn how we can continue to support the community with climate action and education and just resources online. So kudos to Linda and all of our partners in other cities as well for really kind of taking this and running with it. And I think if you, and we welcome additional resources and ideas from the commissioners, please feel free to send Linda or I any thoughts or resources you think would be good that we can share. I think one of the other things, we are working with Valley Water also on the landscape rebate program that is still available. Now that residents are home and spending lots of time in their backyards, I think we're seeing a lot of home improvements too. And so the Water District is offering rebates still for converting lawns, for rain barrels, as well as irrigation conversions. They also have an online indoor water-wise survey. So I think while folks are home, they can also audit their water use. I think that's about it. We are continuing to kind of monitor what other folks are doing and looking for new ways of engaging people virtually. We hope we can get back out into the community sometime soon, but that looks like it will not be as soon as we would like. So again, just keep sending us ideas on things we can do to engage residents and the community. That's my report and update.
Awesome. And I could second that. Definitely, even after the stay-at-home order, this virtual type of meeting absolutely is helpful for people getting through traffic and all of that good stuff. So any other questions or comments on this section?
Yeah, actually, for my case, I did convert my front lawn into the drought-tolerant landscaping recently. Actually, in the beginning, I was planning hiring a landscaper do the work, but before the landscaper showed up, the shelter-in-place came in. So I have to end up doing that by myself. A lot of fun. So I wonder how many people is available of the program to get a rebate, like $2 per square feet. It's pretty decent. I mean, you do yourself, you do save a lot of water bills. So, but I did have some problems like finding the plants I need, especially during the shelter in place. And
yeah.
So, but I wonder whether there are other people having the similar problems. Also, whether how many people are interested in doing the conversion? What kind of outreach program we are doing from the city's perspective to educate residents? Okay, here's a way you can save money and save water.
Right. So we are continuing to post about the landscape rebate program. I think we're also working with Valley Water right now on trying to do some sort of postcard that we can send out to residents. And we're looking for testimonials. So I think a lot of things that we're hearing is, it really helps to hear your neighbor or someone in your community who participated. So Commissioner Liu, if you're interested in being a testimonial for us too, we can also kind of help, use you as an example of someone in Milpitas who has taken advantage of the program during this time.
Yeah,
So
sounds good.
I'll have Linda follow up with you on that.
All right.
That sounds great. I guess with that, we can move on to section 10, which is city liaison reports. Anything from council member, anything additional from staff?
Nothing additional from council member and staff.
Perfect. So I guess with that, we can move to adjourn this meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Before we adjourn,
I got a question here. So during the shelter in place, there's a lot more people staying home. So for the garbage part, do we see a water bill? Do we see people having a much higher water bills or much more garbage they need to dispose? Do people have a problem like that?
So on the water side, we haven't seen the data yet because we do bill on a bi-monthly basis. So a lot of that usage during the shelter in place period, I don't think we've been able to see come through the bills yet. On the garbage side, we do coordinate with Milpitas Sanitation almost on a daily basis just to make sure that their staff are healthy and safe and they're still able to provide operations, which they have been. One of the things that they have seen is an increase in large item collection requests because people are home and cleaning out their houses. So they told us yesterday during our check-in with them that they're booked up through the end of May and now booking appointments for large item collections into June. As far as kind of just garbage set outs, they're not seeing a big increase in the amount of garbage that was set out. I think early on they were noticing that residents were calling and having extra bags, and so they were trying to be as accommodating as possible. I think for their own driver safety, they are asking residents to try to fit everything in their carts so that the drivers don't have to get out of the garbage trucks. But so far, the level of garbage for residents has kind of stayed the same except for the large item collection increase. We are starting to see now large roll-off requests because the construction sites have started up activity again. And then the big hit for them and the big kind of decrease in service has been on the commercial side. They did have a large number of commercial customers calling to suspend service because they were closed and not generating waste. And so that has, they're waiting to see if that rebounds.
Good.
Commissioner Khan, you had a question?
yes, I do. So I just wanted to see if there's any follow-up on the transportation item, because I know that this was like a big item that was always on our agenda and we kept pushing it forward, and we were looking forward to the meeting back in March to review the transportation, but since it's canceled, and I know that through offline email, staff has asked the commissioners to provide feedback for the, I think, pedestrian master plan and trail master plan. But is there any, summary of that can be presented back into this commission? Because it has always
Yes.
been one of the top items that we wanted to bring. here.
Right, and I have been in contact with our staff in our transportation division, and they are working on consolidating all of the comments and feedback they've received through the community survey. They are going to be presenting, I think, the administrative draft to this commission at a future meeting. I think we were talking about August at this point, which is in line with their timeline for having a release of a public administrative draft for you to go over and comment on as well.
Great, thank you. And if I can have one more minute, I have one other question because I've been seeing a lot of, I would say, chatter on Nextdoor regarding the cancellation of compost giveaway, the annual compost giveaway. Do you know if from your communication with Milpitas Sanitation yesterday, is that going to be a different date in the future?
There will be a date in the future for the compost giveaway. We did talk about that yesterday with them as well. And right now they're just waiting on the shelter-in-place order allowing those sort of events. And so they do have a large turnout, though residents are all in their vehicles. There still is staff that have to load and unload bags of compost into the vehicles. And so at this point, they are kind of in a wait and see mode, but they will reschedule. So there will be one. It's just a matter of when we have a date that is safe to do so.
That reminds me though, just going back to the bike route, handling, feedback online and all that. I didn't get an idea of how that feedback was going to make its way back into, adjustments in the bike routes themselves. Is there any elaboration on that process?
Actually, Commissioner Lingle, I don't know, but let me reach out to our transportation staff and see if I can get a response for you on that.
That was a really nice program, by the way. It was very easy to make comments right off the map. It was really good, and see everybody else's preferences as well. Really interesting.
Oh, good. Yep, let me get some information on how kind of all the survey and responses gets tabulated and coalesced into changes.
One last comment. I really appreciate what you did with the website on Earth Day. I used it as a launch point to spend the whole day. I took a day off and it was great. I really appreciate at least you guys doing what you did on with an online thing and the whole program. Again, the Earth Day earthday.org, I think it was, they had massive events across the country. I attended, one at every time zone, pretty much the whole day, and it was great. It was the best Earth Day I've ever had. It was really, really effective just to talk to people out in Appalachia.
Oh, wow.
It was really great. It's like, wow, you guys have the same, commonality that we do. Our aims are the same. Really nice, really fun. Thank you.
That's very good to hear there. Commissioner Sexton, did I notice that you had a question or an additional comment?
It was a comment, but it was already covered, so I don't.
Perfect. So this is a great meeting. I'm really excited at the use of the mute and unmute button. And how well this commission did with that. With that, I'd like to motion to adjourn. If I can get a first and a second.
So moved.
Okay, Commissioner Sexton.
I think that was Commissioner Lingle that seconded.
And Commissioner Lingle seconded. We'll go through roll call just to ensure that it's recorded correctly. Commissioner Liu?
Here.
Yay or nay? I didn't hear.
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Kong?
Yay.
Commissioner Shreve?
Yes.
Okay, and it was first by Commissioner Sexton and seconded by Commissioner Lingle. So with that, I think we're done for the evening, and it's been a great meeting. I'm actually really happy at this virtual setup we have going here.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yes.
everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.